Welcome back, guys, and thanks to all of the new people that are following. That wasn't expected. My name's Amanda. I started this YouTube channel, I guess, as a way to communicate with my daughter, to also help her out with her canning journey as well. So we live on a property, not a huge property, just a few acres, and I like to produce our own food as best we can for as long as we can. And if we can't produce it, and there's plenty that we can't, we source it all locally at our local market, or from local farmers, etc., because we are in a lovely area that does have a lot of farmland. Now, we're quite cold here in the Redlands, so I'm in the Redlands coast area, or the Redlands Shire, Redlands City, southeast Queensland, and have been canning my own produce forever, but started pressure canning a number of years ago and now have started to get the shelves full. Now, on top of this, this is our nook out the end of the kitchen, so these are all of our regular kitchen staples: potatoes, corn, onions, fruit, salmon, those types of foods. Salmon in particular, because I don't eat meat, but I do eat salmon, and so I can my own salmon, and this gets added to all of the soups that I make. And so being able to save our produce as it becomes seasonal instead of feeding it all to the goats, which I generally do, so saving it and putting it into jars has meant making soups throughout winter and throughout the year so much easier. Now, there's lots of different items that I make on a regular basis. These are mince. This is pork and beef mince in a bolognese sauce, and that's from the Ball book. It's a meaty bolognese sauce from memory. I also do pumpkin soups, and yes, I blend my soups up, but they're very thin, liquid soups. They're not a puree. I'm comfortable doing that. You don't have to do that. Don't follow me doing that. It's not an approved recipe, but it's just Thai pumpkin soup, and it's quite thin. There's no thickeners. It's just vegetable soup. Instead of blending it later on, I blend it when I process it, and I've been doing it for a long time, and I'm still here. And I know that's not a thing, but yeah, I'm still here. So yeah, Thai pumpkin soup, no additives, just potato, pumpkin, onion, vegetable stock, garlic, Thai curry paste, and cooked down and then blips together. And it's butternut pumpkins because we grow butternut pumpkins as well. And we've got quite a few at the moment, so I'm going to have to do some more up. I've also got garlic and all sorts of things. Okay, so with the canning, pretty simple. All my jars, lots of them. Everybody knows this, who's seen previous videos. Lots of different sizes from Salisbury and Co. I like them because they've got the grips on the side, which makes it really easy to get down from the taller shelves. This is just my pantry cupboard where my canning supplies are kept. So things like vinegar, mineral oil, I use that for coating our eggs. That means our eggs can last up to 6 to 9 months once they're coated and kept in the refrigerator, because they are washed when they come from the pens as well. So just general staples: citric acid, lemon juice, molasses, pectin, just your generals, vanilla. Because we live reasonably close that we can get access to an outlet that has large cans of fruit, I do buy large cans of apples and things like that and break it down for the baby in the family as well. So there is apple sauces and things like that on the shelves. The carrots are all fresh. Anything that I do from fresh vegetables, I don't add my salt to them at this stage because I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. So if I'm going to add that into a bolognese or something, I don't want a teaspoon or half a teaspoon of salt per jar. I add my salt later on. All right, today's job: potatoes and onions. I'm not going to get the potatoes done today, and I've only got, looks like 5 kilos of potatoes left on the shelves, which is nowhere near enough for us for a year. And I thought I had enough onions on the shelf actually, because I've just done 10 kilos, but no, they're all gone as well. So they've either been processed into bolognese sauces or soups, etc., or they've just generally been eaten. So onto the onions. So the onions were grown last year and they were fine, but we've had a cold winter, and where they're stored behind this wall, there's another room where they're stored back there. It's quite cold, and it's been below 5 degrees in that room for a good couple of weeks. And I went down and checked on the onions a couple of weeks ago and they were okay. But I went down and checked on them a few days ago and they're not so okay. They're quite soft because we've chilled down to 2 and 3 degrees. It's probably been colder out there in the wraparound area of the house where there's no insulation. So the onions have been chilled as if they'd been in a refrigerator. They've started to grow roots as well. They've not shot sprouts yet. These were early harvest brown onions, and they were harvested, what month are we in now? We're in July. These ones were harvested at the end of September last year, October, before the rains came, October. So we've had rain from October through till now, and we've had cyclones and all sorts of conditions since then and flooding. So they're a little bit more moist than I like. They're a bit softer. I have to be processed in order to save them. So I could freeze them and take up a huge space in my freezer, or I can can them. And when I can them for 40 minutes, whether it's a quart or a pint. No added salt, just water, and I don't do a hot pack. You can do a hot pack where you need to boil these for 5 minutes once they're sliced up and then pack them into jars. I don't go through that process. What I do is I slice them all up, I pour boiling water over the top of them, I put their lids on, and then I start the canner. And we'll cook them up that way because there's just too many to do. Once they've been processed, which is great, I end up with 2 of these giant big onions in each quart jar, which means, each pint jar. So, which means for all of my pints, it's 2 onions, which makes it easier for me when I'm cooking bolognese or whatever. Let's go ahead. I am not going to hand slice all these. I do have to peel them. I can't keep the skins this time. I made brown onion stock with the skins about 8 weeks ago, but I can't do that this time because there's a bit of blemishes and mould now on these skins. So I'm going to have to peel all these onions, top and tail them. All of those items will not be able to be kept this time, unfortunately. I can't even use them in stocks. Might be able to top and tail and use the tails in stocks. The rest of it I can't, unfortunately. It'll be too bitter. So, and then I'm just going to use my chopper and I'm going to chop them all in this and fill up all these trays. All right, let's get on with it. Time to chop some onions. Not what I wanted to do. All right, let's get on with it. Sorry about that, I just got distracted by the goats. Okay, so we started off with about 20 kilos, I'm still going. But as I'm cutting through them, I'm discovering there's a lot more cold damage on the onions than I at first thought. Might as well show you just what I mean. So because these have been on the outside or the top layer of that box, which is how they've been stored down in the back room, they've gotten quite cold on the top. So I don't want to risk canning these ones, but I will can them, but I'm going to cook these ones. These ones I'm going to turn into a caramelized balsamic jam, onion jam. So all of the ones that have got, this is cold damage on the outside. This is what happens if you leave them in a refrigerator for an extended period of time as well, that the onions start to get this cold damage on the outside. It's not so noticeable on the outer skin of them. It's not until you start to cut into them that you find that sort of damage within them. So they need to be cooked off, unlike these ones, which are nice and firm and nice and white all the way through to the centres. These ones I'm going to cold pack into their jars and we're going to pressure can these ones for 40 minutes. I'll fill this tray up with the ones that have been affected by the cold, and these ones are still firm enough. Although they're cold, they are firm enough that I'm hoping that I might still be able to have some fresh onions throughout the year coming up. So I'm going to hang these up in the large onion bags and dry them out and see whether or not that works. If it doesn't work, then I'll just have to prepare them as well. But by hanging them up in the dark, hopefully we can slow down their rate of maturation, I suppose we'll call it. All right, so let's get back to this, and I still have about 5 kilos or so to do, and then I can start slicing, and I'm pretty sure you don't all need to see me slicing and dicing, so I'll come back once I've started filling up their jars. Okay, step 1 done. All onions have been chopped and sorted into their different types for me. So these ones I'm going to save, and I can use them for stocks, or I can use them for fresh onion dishes if I'm making pickles, etc. throughout the year, if I can get those to dry out, because 20 kilos of onion for our family of 5 adults, 2 children, utilise all of this stock that I process There are 3 that live here permanently, and then there's an additional 4 that come and go. Anyway, so these all need to be processed now down into the fine chop, ready for their jars. These ones are going to be caramelized, so I'm going to chop those differently for the jam. So I'm going to cube those ones in the machine, and these ones are going to go off for storage. On to the next step. Okay, 10 minutes later, everything's sliced up, ready to go into their jars, or being done with the manual machine. We're on solar power during the day, and then we do use some grid power at night time, so keeping the bills down while we've got sunshine is while I do all my pressure canning and using things like kettles, which you might be able to hear in the background. That's for filling up our jars when we get to the jar stage, which we're going to do now. Let's get our jars prepared. So the jars are warming because it's so cold here at the moment. It's about 10-ish degrees in the house. I don't want to be having any problems with thermal shock during the heating process, because I am going to be pouring boiling water into these jars with the fresh cold onions. I'm not pre-cooking my onions. I'm doing a raw pack, except I am adding boiled water, my little cheat. So just warming these jars up. I need 3 litres of water in the bottom of my Presto pressure canner. So I'll be using the water out of each of these jars directly into the pressure canner until I reach the level that I need. Now I'm just going to fill up my jars. I have my flats as well. These ones have been used once and they're perfectly fine to use again. I've had a check of all of their sealant underneath and they all look fine. They've been used for other fruits and vegetables recently. So they're all going to get used, and I've got some new ones as well. And then the bands go on, finger tight. We're going to process them, bring them up to temperature, vent my pressure canner for 10 minutes, pop its weight on, and then continue to cook them for another 40 minutes. Okay, so jars full. I do pack them down at this stage as well, just to ensure they're quite dense, because we're going to fill them up with water and then we're just going to put the lids on, and the onions will release some fluid, but I want enough fluid to cover my onions afterwards. So by packing them in really tightly and then debubbling, you ensure that you end up with a good coverage of your cooked onions afterwards. It's okay if there's no fluid over the top of your onions, but you do want to leave the headspace, the inch headspace, so I need to pack down to that level of the jars. Okay, pack down to my inch headspace. Just going to give the rim of the jar just to clean. There's no oil, so it doesn't require vinegar. Just a paper towel just to make sure it's nice and dry. And then on goes a top and a ring, and we continue the same process for the next 15 or so jars until we get to the end, or as many as you've got, obviously. Just to there, literally finger tight, and they go into the canner 40 minutes. So second jar, same thing, fill it to the rim, pack it down, add the water, bring it up to that 1/4 inch or the inch mark. No added salt in these ones, but you can add salt if you want. It doesn't affect the preservation by adding the salt. It just is for flavour. And because I'm going to be adding these to soups and other things later on, no salt's going to be added to them. Again, nice and clean around the top of the ring, around that rim. Flat goes on, and then the ring goes on. So these are nice and warm jars now, ready to go straight into the pressure canner. So I've got about 15 or so of these to fill. So I'm going to turn my canner on and start bringing it up to temperature as well. Okay, so we've got 9 pint-sized jars in the bottom. So each of those contains approximately 2 onions. I'm going to double stack my canner. So this is the Presto canner. So I can double stack when I'm doing pints, and so we'll get another 9 ready for the top. Okay, 9 on the bottom. There'll be 8 on top. These are the Salisbury & Co. old-fashioned jars, which come from kitchenwarehouse.com, I think it is. I like them because they've got ridges on the edges of the jars, which when you're reaching from a shelf gives you a hand grip, stops the jars slipping. I think they're perfect. All right, so popping those into the top of the canner, which I had turned down because it was a little bit hot too quickly and I didn't have the last jars in place. So now they're all going into place. I'm going to put the lid on. I'm going to bring this up to steaming. Do that for 10 minutes and allow it to steam from the vents for 10 minutes before adding the weight and then cooking for a further 40 minutes. After that time, allowing the pressure canner to cool down on its own time and then slowly releasing the lid. Once we've gotten to that stage, we'll come back and have a look at the end product. Now I use the Presto on a glass top. Oops, I left one out, need to get that back in. Glass top induction cooker. It's designed for this particular model, and so if you're using a glass top, be sure that you've got the right model Presto. They don't all, are not all suitable for these tops. I have my weight ready. This is my 10 psi weight, which is what I need for my elevation. Time is ready as well, so we're just now waiting for the 10 minutes to vent, and I'll start my timer at 10 minutes and then come back, pop the lids on, and then I'll come back and show you what they look like when they're done. Need to process the onions all year round if possible, as far as the amount that we use. So how much do we use? About half a kilo to a kilo a week. Okay, so we're back. All right, this is how that come out. After 40 minutes and cool down, and the next day once we've tested their seals. So these are a couple of jars that I did previously for you to see. So the liquid covers the tops of the onions. These ones were processed 3 months ago. Perfectly fine, lovely, nice clear onion. The broth can be used in stocks and soups as well. We're week 3 of our pantry challenge, and I was down to the last 2 jars of my onions. I did 10 kilos in total, but what I had done is I've made a lot of stocks and soups and sauces in the past few weeks, so I have used a lot of my onions in these broths and things, but I don't have any spares left on the shelf to get me through another 3 months or 6 months, so I definitely needed to do some jars. Very simple method, easy to use. Once they're done, they're ready just to be added to any of your meals, and they're pre-cooked, which means it reduces your cooking time even further. These are just your standard ball mason jars, and they are now about 8 years old, these guys. These are quite good. I like them, but I definitely prefer the Salisbury because of those grips when you're starting to do the larger size jars. But mason jars work. So do Fowlers. I use Fowlers as well for some of my soups and stocks because I like this particular size jar. So it's an 850ml, so number 27 Fowlers, and it's my favourite and the only ones that I am currently or have plans on using in the Fowler range because it just suits me and my shelves because I can fit 2 comfortably on the shelf. Okay, thanks for joining me. Any questions, pop them in the comments. Happy to help anybody out as far as how to go about adding some of these meals, etc. to your shelves. If you look through some of the previous videos, you'll see that I've made these chicken casseroles, etc. And I've done the videos for my lovely daughter to also start doing her own canning and give her mum a bit of a break now and then. Would be great. All right. Enjoy your weekend or your weekday, guys. Stay warm. Bye now.